Have you ever wanted to claw your own eyes out?
No, not at all. It's never even come up.
Huh. Okay. Well, that makes one of us, I guess.
What Brad? Are you okay? Do I need to call? Are there some helplines we can call if we need to?
I mean, in an absolute sense, I'm okay. Yes.
Okay.
You don't actually need to worry, but like in an immediate, whinier sense, not as dude. The allergy season is. I don't even know what to say other than I landed on an article published by the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
Oh, the USDA.
The same.
Yes.
The very same. Saying, yes, allergy seasons are getting worse. It's climate change's fault.
I can see that. I last night I had to cancel my stream because I had a headache, like a sinus headache so bad that I had to go lay in a dark room, and I just put on some quiet, chill music.
Mm-hmm. That's a good thing to do. Cold compress, something cold on the eyes. I spent about 30 minutes this morning with an ice cube pressed up against my eyes.
Oh,
which helped quite a bit. Also, I found an article talking about the California rains because we've got an insane amount of rain. Not only has everything grown like crazy, but apparently the very hard pounding rain breaks up the pollen more into smaller particles.
Fantastic.
And which makes it easier to like lodge into your sinuses.
So I've noticed coming out and looking at my car in the morning on any given day, I have a dark gray black car, and it's often like got a yellow tinge just from the pollen all over it. It's been great this year.
No, it's been a lot. I am on 1, 2, 3, 4 allergy. I've taken 4 allergy medications in the last hour.
That's too many, Brad.
I've got a fifth. I've got Claritin in there that I was thinking about. I don't know.
Just in case you jacked up on your antihistamines, huh?
I got the Flonase. I've got the Allegra. I've got the Benadryl.
So, okay, if I had taken a Benadryl and an Allegra, I'd be unconscious right now. But
well, time to podcast.
welcome to Brad and Will Made a Tech Pod. I'm Will.
I'm Brad.
It's Girl Scout cookie season, Brad.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
it's actually today's the last day of Girl Scout cookie season. If you're listening to this podcast on Sunday,
Thank God. It's been a rough season around here.
Wow, that's harsh on the Girl Scouts.
I don't meet the temptation anymore.
I don't think I've actually eaten any this year.
What?
I know. I maybe had one Samoa, but I realized, I've talked about this before in the podcast, but like there's like a death window from Halloween until Easter that encompasses like, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Martin Luther King Day, Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, all the candy holidays.
Wait.
Right? And Girl Scout cookies.
St. Patrick's is a MLK. Are those actually candy?
I don't
holidays?
think MLK actually is, but like there's gold chocolate coins on St. Patrick's Day usually at our house. Yeah. And just between I love our neighbors. They bring so many Christmas cookies over. Like we had a whole counter in our kitchen was filled with like Christmas cookies and cupcakes and little cakes. And it was delicious and it was wonderful. Mm-hmm. But like, at some point I was just like, man, I want to have nothing sweet in the house ever again.
You spent 6 months indulging and then 6 months paying for it.
Yeah. And Girl Scout cookies land right at the end of that season. I'm doing a great job selling the Girl Scout cookies, by the way, right now. Girl Scout cookies land at the end of that season. And this year I was just like, no, I'm good. I'm not going to do another 5 pounds of Girl Scout cookies. I can't put that on this year.
It's an impressive display of willpower, I have to say. Willpower.
Well, I mean, and then the thing that happens is whatever we don't sell ends up like going in the freezer because they don't take the Girl Scouts. They don't take the cookies back if you don't sell them, So
really, I did not realize that.
No, it's a strong incentive to move some fucking cookies because otherwise I'm buying a lot of cookies.
What are they? $6 a box now?
$6 a box. There's 180 boxes of cookies in my living room now.
That's a lot of cookie.
Yeah, we're doing I think hopefully the final booth down at Sam's Chowder House as soon as we get off the podcast, basically.
Chowder and cookies, my favorite.
It's a lobster roll place, but they do also have clam chowder. But yeah. So anyway, the upshot is I got to move these Girl Scout cookies. We've started doing Venmo.
Okay.
At the cookie booths.
Oh, yeah. We came out of Safeway 3-4 weeks ago, and there was a stand there that was cash only, and they had a ton of boxes left.
Yep.
And my girlfriend said exactly that. She was like, "Oh man, that little girl's really hamstringing herself by not taking Venmo or PayPal or like something that's not cash."
Well, it's a little bit of I mean, I feel a little bad about it because it's kind of a privilege thing too, right? Like you have to be able to do Venmo, right? Which I guess means you have to have a phone, or your parent has to have a phone. It is, and you have to be able to, like, the Venmo money has to be fungible enough for you that you can get it out and afford to eat the whatever transaction cost is from extracting money from Venmo. There may not be one if depending on how you set it up, but anyway, Venmo has been very good to us. We just have I have the Yo, my toner is low version right here that says pay with cash, credit, or Venmo.
That's an old printer for sure. Is it?
Well, I'm just out of toner.
Is it a brother?
It is a brother.
It is.
Look,
you don't say.
I'm going to go and tell you the Church of the Wire Cutter is strong in this house.
Oh, sure. I don't know about you, but my brother long predates the wire cutter. Did you see that Verge piece?
No.
You should look it up.
About the brother printers?
Yes.
I did see the Verge piece. Yes.
You did? I have maybe never felt more validated than I did when I saw that. Well, because by and large, I have just gotten a lot of grief from people in recent years for even owning a printer, but then I saw that go up. And I actually didn't realize I just pulled this piece up. They straight up formatted it like a wire cutter. The best printer in 2023. Just buy the Brother laser printer everyone has. It's fine.
Yeah. So here's my dirty secret is that Gina bought a Brother laser printer in like 2005 when she started working from home. It was a combo fax machine printer scanner.
That's older than mine.
Yeah. It had 802.11B and G, but not N.
Mm-hmm.
And about 6 months into the pandemic, when we had to start printing a ton of stuff for the kiddos' school, it started squeaking. And I took it apart a couple of times to try to find the shiv of paper that was in there making the squeaking sound. And then I looked at what a new printer costs and how much smaller they are, and the fact that it doesn't require 802.11b networking to work. And I was like, I'm going to pay $80 and buy a brand new Brother printer. And it's great, except it comes with a starter toner cartridge that is like a third filled or some bullshit.
Sure.
So I got to order a new toner is the takeaway.
I think you can get aftermarket third party toner cartridges for those, right? Or at least you could for mine.
It's cheap enough that I kind of don't care.
We have refilled. Oh, you mean even the Brother made toner?
The Brother made one is cheap enough that it's fine.
I've replaced the toner once in 15 years. It's been almost exactly 15 years since I bought that printer, and one toner replacement. So
we print a little bit more than that. But like I did, a toner cartridge in the old Brother printer would last 2-3 years probably.
Sure.
So
sure.
When I started Foo, it was a little more difficult to do paperless than it is now.
Fair. So a lot of contracts to sign.
I had to print a lot of stuff and sign it and then send pictures back because people always wanted. It's not a wet signature if you don't have the piece of paper with the ink on it, but it's like
I was just about to say I was just introduced to the phrase wet signature about 2 weeks ago. I don't like it. I continue to not like it.
Yeah, I think of the ones that like you sign and take the picture of or scan as a moist signature. I think is where that ends.
Okay, sure. That's maybe actually moist, maybe not much better now that I think about
it. So this week we're gonna go back. We're going back to the content mines, and we're bringing back a favorite form of episode for folks. It's not like 8 of you have asked for us to continue the ranking of all software. A much larger group of people were like, hey man, maybe don't ever do that episode again.
I completely forgot we did that.
Yeah. We were in a little bit, it was a fever dream this holiday season. So
it was a bit of a, hey, let's just try to figure out what we can do to run over the holidays. This sounds fun. I enjoyed it. I like talking about
enjoyed that conversation. Yeah, it was fun.
Maybe what if we just removed the ranking part and we just brought some fun show and tell software to talk about?
That's an interesting idea. We'll put that one in the file.
Yes.
But we're doing a potpourri episode this week.
Yes. So also known as a conversation.
Well, but I mean, the idea of the potpourri episode is here's some topics that aren't meaty enough to warrant a full hour's conversation, but are still interesting enough to talk about.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's it. We're gonna get into a handful of things that probably don't stand on their own, and maybe touch on one that I'm kind of borderline on. Like we touched on fan control last week. Mm-hmm. The more time I spend on fan control, the more I think it's probably worthy of an episode because it is a really interesting, complicated piece of software.
Okay. I set it up yesterday, as a matter of fact.
Ooh. Well, okay. Let's save that one for the end in case we have time.
Okay.
Right. Just tease it.
I do need to talk about GPU fans while we're here, but maybe...
You want to start with that? You want to kick it off with that?
We could.
I mean, we could talk about my burb cam. Burb cam.
How is the bird doing? Actually, hold on.
Yeah.
I'll answer that.
You can just see for yourself.
I can tell you the bird is currently out. Nope, she just came back.
Yeah.
Wow.
It looks like she's about to poop.
Dude, wow. She enters the frame so fast, it's almost like she teleports in. That was incredible.
It's a 30 frames per second camera.
I was going to say the frame rate's probably low enough to enhance that effect, but she literally... It was like 2 frames from her not being there to her being there. That was kind of incredible.
There's the boy. There's the male. Oh, no.
Oh, wow. Look at him.
We're getting a whole scene. This is a great audio podcast here.
What are they doing?
He's feeding her.
Wait.
So she has to sit on the eggs. Oh. Her job is to sit on the eggs, and he brings food.
Oh, I didn't realize they hadn't hatched yet.
No. They're just eggs still.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. So, okay. So for people who aren't paying attention to every single thing that we do, when we went to Tahoe a couple of weeks ago, we came back and there was a bird nest on our front porch. And I did this thing any sane person would do and went to Amazon and bought an IP cam, a cheap IP cam, and screwed it into the as close as I could get it to the bird's nest without making them angry and sad. And then tried a couple of different ways. Like you can stream straight to RTMP sources from most IP cams these days.
Really?
Yeah, but then you can't adjust framing and you can't like put music and stuff like that on it. So
so is that camera streaming? So yeah, I guess we talked about this a little bit last week, but I guess the update here is that we should talk about your process and your tech here. So is that camera streaming directly to? Is it going straight to an ingest server at Twitch?
Well, so that's what I did for the first day, because the bird's nest is in a space with like 3 inches of clearance. I wasn't able to get the camera aimed so that up was up in any way that the camera software could appreciate.
I did notice that you've added this little down arrow annotation here.
Well, so originally though, there was no rotation on the camera frame. So if you want to follow along and see, the stream is probably running at twitch.tv/ not that Will Smith at any given moment during the day. So this is what the feed originally looked like, Brad.
Oh, wow. Okay.
With it rotated like that. And basically people couldn't tell which way was up, right? Because it was confusing. So first I put the this way down and then that I couldn't overlay that on the video because the camera doesn't it lets you put words, but not images. And then I was just like, wait, I can probably just pipe a stream from the camera directly into OBS. And I Googled that and like 30 seconds later, I had the answer. And sure enough, you can put an RTSP stream that OBS connects to the camera and is like, hey man, give me a stream. The camera's like, yeah, sure. Okay, whatever.
Don't tell me real-time streaming
protocol, I think.
Dude, I know we've talked about this before. I spent a lot of time 3 years ago during the pandemic looking at streaming protocols.
Oh, yeah, different ways to get high quality video out of OBS and into mixers.
Yes, or straight to a streaming service. The point is the number of streaming protocols that are some combination of the letters R, T, S, and P is absolutely ridiculous. There's RTP, there's RTSP, there's RTMP, there's SRT. It's like, hey, maybe a little more creativity is called for in your protocol naming.
Well, but I think some of them are the same. Just it's whether it's a push or a pull, right?
I'm not sure.
Like
RTSP
and RTMP work identically, except for one you go and ask for and one you send up to a repeater.
Some of them are, I think, kind of a superset. It's like
that makes sense.
I can't remember which are which, but like some of them will use will use a lower level protocol on one port, and then like some extra stuff on another port. So some of them actually encompass others. It's a lot to keep up with.
Well, so anyway. I bought this. It's a 4K. I bought it mainly because it has decent night vision. I went and made sure that the birds don't get bothered. The birds can't see IR because I didn't want to like eye blast the birds all night, every night. Mm-hmm. But so we have a house finch. We have a family of a pair of house finches.
Oh, you've identified the species.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to tell the difference between house finches and purple finches. We learned purple finches on the West Coast typically have a crest. House finches are the similar coloring, usually a little more reddish for the male. The females have a distinctive mark above their eyes, which you can see on our girl here.
You got that finch.
She looks the right way. We got that finch.
You got that finch.
She sings. They sing.
Oh.
When the male comes and brings food for her, she's very excited and kind of chirps and sings every morning.
Does that camera have a microphone?
It does not, because that camera is about 3 feet from my couch, and I didn't want everybody on streams to be able to hear every conversation I have.
Fair. That's a good point.
Yeah. So I intentionally bought one without a microphone. The setup is IP bird cam, IP security cam. I bought an Amcrest 4K, which was like, it was on sale for $80 when I looked for it. It could get here the next day, which seemed important. And it had a weather casing.
Okay. Are they a known brand? I had not heard of them before, but
they make a bazillion cameras. Also, they didn't have any cloud bullshit. That was my other criteria. I wanted something that I could keep entirely within my network and not have to go up to their servers.
That's really exactly what I was asking in terms of their reputation, because I am super skittish about the Alexa age of video and audio recording devices in the home. So yeah, something the more like open and unconnected something is, the better in that space to me.
Yeah. So this one is it was also PoE because I didn't want to have to run multiple power over Ethernet because I didn't want to have to run multiple cables. They offer some cloud stuff. It's optional. You can turn it off, and I was happy to do that. And it's not looking at ports outside the network. So
sure. Do you how do you administrate it? Does it have a web interface?
It has a web interface. Okay. Or there's an app too. You can like if you load up the app, it scans your network and finds the IPs that respond on the right port.
That's cool.
Yeah, but like I plugged it into my Unify switch, and the Unify console was like, "Hey, this device is on now, and it has this IP address." And then I typed that IP address in, and I was right there.
I don't want to steal your thunder or anything, but you doing this has got me thinking again about Piggy cams.
I am happy to help you figure out the Piggy cam setup if you would like. I'm also, other thing I'm doing is I'm piping in chill lo-fi beats from Pretzel Rocks, which is like a streamer friendly royalty free music site. Like no copyright, no royalty problems.
Oh, that's cool. Wow, that's awesome. I didn't know that existed.
Yeah, and it's like $10 a month or something like that, and it's basically Spotify for royalty free stuff. Okay. So I run the app on my machine. I'm piping the audio out to my Steam streaming microphone, and then I'm using the OBS experimental application audio capture to just grab that. So I don't have to hear the Pretzel stuff on my PC when I'm just doing it. Like I'm using the same PC that I'm using to stream this right now, and it's just working. So that's pretty cool.
Do you know you could? I mean, I don't know if you care enough or not, but you could set up it would be pretty complicated, but a big FFmpeg filter, so you could run this stream headlessly if you want.
I absolutely could do that.
You could do a transform on the raw video coming in to rotate it and place it the way you want. And you could make like an overlay image or another video. Even I kind of got into like looking at overlays and transitions and stuff in FFmpeg. I mean, the command line would be a mile long, and it would be very tricky because the syntax is insane in that thing. But you could like run this on your B-Link if you wanted to.
So I do FFmpeg stuff to do Steam streaming for the Anacrusis when that goes.
Okay, so you've done some of that then.
But the thing I find is that you need another script that runs around that to restart it when it like loses connection or drops or whatever.
Oh, interesting. Is that a network connectivity thing, or is the camera just not reliable enough to stay up 24/7?
It's a Twitch. it's either a Twitch or network connectivity thing between me and Twitch.
Okay.
So if the Twitch connection gets okay. So there's two things. One is that I do have to reset the network camera, the RTSP stream occasionally, because it does get a little glitchy over a period of 20 hours, 10 to 20 hours. The other issue is that you do have to restart the Twitch stream occasionally.
Okay, well, that would be doable.
And Twitch kicks you off. Honestly, I'm happy running this in OBS because I can still use virtual camera for a different scene, which is what I use OBS for on my desktop most of the time. And this lets me have a live feed into what's going on the bird when I'm sitting at my desk, which I like. So
can you hang on? So you're saying you're streaming out of OBS to Twitch the bird stuff, but you can still use virtual. I thought the virtual camera only outputted whatever was in the program feed.
No, when you set up virtual camera, you choose which scene is your camera scene.
Oh, no kidding.
Yes, you can use that independently. So
wow, I thought you could not access the virtual camera while you were streaming something else out. Oh, that's good to know.
No, yeah, it's much more useful than I found that out a few weeks ago, and I was like, oh, this changes how I feel about virtual camera.
Yeah.
And I already liked virtual camera a lot.
And so that, I assume that means you can tweak the camera scene and have that be effective in real time, regardless of wow.
So I open it up in studio mode, can adjust the camera scene
in the preview,
and then that is reflected immediately in the virtual.
Oh, that's awesome. I am going to mess with that. Oh, you're virtual camming as we speak.
I'm virtual camming, right? Oh, that's not the.
Also, hang on. Wow, look at that. Your frame's just flying around.
Yeah, I'm all over the place.
Wait, hang on. Do you not always use studio mode?
I hardly ever use studio mode.
Really? Studio mode is the only way to go as far as I'm concerned. But
well, so most of my stuff, I use one scene. Like I have a scene before the stream starts, and then I have a scene when I get up from the desk or something.
Yeah, that's fair. I guess you pretty much stream the same way every day, so that makes sense. I just
my scenes are complicated. The scene that I use is complicated, but the number of scenes I have is relatively straightforward.
That's probably fine. That makes sense. I just like having a net. I like having a buffer between scene changes, so that if I select the wrong thing or don't want something to go out, you have time to not do it.
Part of the no studio mode is a legacy of the Stream Deck software not supporting studio mode properly, so not giving you a good way to transition between scenes.
Oh, has that changed? I've dabbled with it a little bit now that I'm using the Stream Deck. It seems to support scene transition stuff pretty well now.
Last year they added support, or last year maybe even 2021. But I've been using it for 5 years, 6 years at this point.
Well, hey, what if you didn't use the Elgato software at all to run your Stream Deck?
Oh, that was a nice segue, Brad. So yeah, there's this Bitfocus Companion thing, which is an open source project.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, you have evangelized Bitfocus. Oh yeah, here's the repo, because when you go to their website, they ask you to create an account to download it.
So they do that. I actually don't have any idea why they do that. There's a fact that explains why they do that, but I haven't cared enough to read it.
I think I did read why. There quite literally is, why do you want us to make an account to download the software? Is it totally free?
Totally free.
It seems like it. Yes. Here's the repos right here.
They are they're in the process of building some like patronage type, like, hey, you can get some bonus stuff if you give us money type support for this.
Okay. Yeah, it's got 60 contributors. It is definitely a fully FOSS thing.
Yeah, and it's basically it's designed to be a cross-platform because it works with other kind of Stream Deck-like things. There's a couple of there's the Loupedeck and some other things that are kind of similar, that are either more or less functional. You can also plug it into like a MIDI interface. It's basically a software front end for control of other hardware and software front ends. And you can use it with the Stream Deck. You can create buttons using it that work on the Stream Deck. So you don't have to like replace your Stream Deck software. You can use it as a subset if you want for your Stream Deck software. But it has much better support for audio interfaces and like production hardware than the Stream Deck has. But like where the Stream Deck focuses on stuff that streamers use, this is more for hey, if you're running the soundboard at a live venue or a church or something like that, then this will let you interface with the mixer directly. And like I have this Stream Deck Plus with knobs that now I can turn the knobs and it'll adjust my levels on my big mixer.
That thing is
across
cool.
across the network. Yeah.
It's also got the kind of touch surface, right? Kind of a touch strip screen.
Yes. Yeah. And so you can like they support a bazillion things. It's not exactly 1-to-1 of the stuff that the Stream Deck supports. And there's some stuff that's a little more complicated, but you can also call scripts, call applications. Like I have a shortcut that launches OBS with virtual camera already running, using some command line flags and stuff like that. Okay. So
I'm going to have to take a look at this. Sorry, I have now gotten off on a derail looking at Loopedecks, which are kind of awesome. They appear to also do dials.
They had dials before Stream Deck had dials, and I think they have more dials typically.
So that's the thing about the Stream Deck Plus. If people haven't seen it, what is it? 8 buttons?
The Stream Deck Plus is 8 buttons, a touch strip that effectively is 4 more buttons, and then 4 dials, 4 knobs that are also 4 buttons.
That's not a bad mix. I feel like 8 buttons is maybe a little limited for me.
So I have I have 2 Stream Decks. I have a big one, the XL, hooked up to the streaming PC.
I see.
And then I have the little one hooked up to the main PC.
Okay.
The thing I find is that while I'm actually working, I have like one that does lighting in the room. I have one. I switch between pages a lot, and you do that by swiping on the strip, basically. And I find that I have one scene that I use a little like at the start of the day and one scene that I use at the end of the day. And then the other one is the one that stays on all the time.
Sure.
But it's nice to be able to adjust the audio. I used to have a big MIDI interface on my desk that I used for that, and it didn't give me feedback about this lets me have multiple. So now I have multiple layers where I have like the program feed, the monitor feed that I hear. The program feed is what goes out to the stream. The monitor feed is what I hear. And then I also have a layer for what you're hearing right now that comes back into my PC. Ooh. So I can adjust my mic hotness coming back into the PC, which means I don't ever have to touch gain on anything anymore. It's just adjusting levels, which is really good.
I assume you don't have that program monitor active at all times, because that would probably make you insane.
Which
the what you just described, the entire mix coming back in that you can hear.
I do, because usually that's the only way I hear the game.
Is it low latency enough that you don't hear your voice echoing?
No. Sorry, the program is not a monitor. The program is if chat says, "Hey, you're too quiet" or "You're too loud," I can turn it up.
I see.
Without having to open up the software interface for the mixer, which is like a ridiculous application. It means I can do it without changing focus of the current Windows app.
I see.
Basically,
I'm going to close this Loupedeck page because these look really nice, and I certainly don't need it with an XL already on my desk. But
yeah, the XL, like the thing about it is the XL does kind of everything you want. The nice thing about
unless you want a knob.
I mean, if you want a knob, you can just get a knob separate though. Get a keyboard with a knob.
Yeah, it's nice to have it all in one device. You know how I am about cables.
I am aware of your feelings with regard to cables.
That's LOUPE deck.
Yeah, like the kind of thing you used to look up close at pictures.
Yeah.
The thing that I find about this is it's kind of like the difference between Home Assistant and like Google or Apple's HomeKit or your smart things or whatever. This is a more difficult to set up, but it allows you to do much more complicated actions and allows you to make the buttons do exactly what you want instead of getting close enough or maybe having like 3 buttons that do what you would want to do in one button or something like that.
Okay, this is exactly for me then, because you're talking about Bitfocus, to be clear.
I'm talking about Bitfocus Companion, yeah.
Yeah, because the Elgato Stream Deck software, it's okay, but yeah, I've already run into a couple spots where it's like, I wish there was a little more configurable behavior here.
Yeah,
in terms of like for example, the big one to me, honestly, is the press and hold on the Elgato software. Did you ever use that?
No, I don't use it because it's stunk.
Yeah, it's terrible. You can't configure like the length of time you need to hold the button down, and the default is roughly it seems like 5 seconds, which is way too long.
It is a really long time.
And there's no visual feedback on the button when it activates and deactivates, so you just have to kind of hold it and kind of just guess when it's long enough.
You have to have it hooked to something that you can see happen on your screen so you know when to let go.
Right. It's real bad. And that's for something, I would do that for like streaming and recording, right? Like you don't want to accidentally bump the stream button and have it end your stream prematurely, but you also, you don't want to have to sit there holding it forever. Anyway, it sounds like when I wipe this new machine and get this filthy temp Windows install off of here and do a real one, sounds like I should go straight to Bitfocus Companion and just skip the Elgato stuff.
Yeah, Brad, they let you do half presses.
What?
So you can do,
what is that?
Have separate actions on key down and key up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
So like it's basically a hold, like push it down and something is happening. And then when you let
so if
off
you want to have push to mute, you can do that.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Goodbye, Elgato software. This sounds exactly like what I want.
It's really good. It's a little confusing starting out, but once you kind of understand, it's like every other piece of software ever. Once you understand the internal language that they use, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. That's kind of open source stuff in general, right? Less user friendly, harder to configure, but way more powerful.
This is very polished by open source standards, I would say. Anyway, Bitfocus Companion, you can find it at bitfocus.io is the URL.
Yeah, that's awesome. They have a couple of other packages that I have not.
Oh God, I didn't tell you about this. The best part, here's the best thing. They do a thing you can if you don't want to have, if you're doing all network stuff and you don't want to have Companion running on your desktop PC and have the screen on all the time, even when your PC is off, you can hook it up to a Pi.
Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna say. One of the others is Companion Pi here.
Yeah. Or if you have this doesn't apply to us because we don't, it's like if you had a stage install or something like that, like if you had a computer backstage on a theater and you needed to run stuff on it from your sound booth, you can do a satellite where it connects to it over the network, where you run the host on the computer backstage, and then you have the satellite running in the sound booth or whatever. And you don't have to run cables between them.
Really?
Yeah. The satellite's a little limited, is my understanding, but I don't like it in a dream world where I'm able to move the streaming stuff into the garage. Then that might be useful, but I'm probably good for now. Anyway, it's a really neat piece of software.
That's awesome. That's exciting. I'm going to mess with that soon. I regret to inform you, I'm just going to a little interlude here. Oh, wait, no. I thought the bird had frozen.
No, the bird's just still.
The bird is just extremely chill right now. Also, the extremely like rapid sort of rigid movements of a bird make it just seem like the frame rate is incredibly low. Like the way a bird moves its head in these kind of like rigid increments. It just makes it look like this is running at like 2 frames a second, but that's just actually the way the bird moves.
Yeah, they're fast. It's running. It's let's see the stats on the Twitch window that it's running. I haven't dropped any frames. We're good. We're running a full 30 FPS here.
Right. Good to know.
I could turn the frame rate down on the stream though, because right now I'm doing 60 frames a second out to Twitch, I think, and I could do the same bit rate at 30 frames a second, which would be double the bit rate per frame. Anyway, we don't have to get into that.
No. Should we talk about my Windows install and where my PC is at? And also I want to talk about GPU fans. I
feel like you teed up an incredible segue for your filthy Windows install. So we should pick that up here.
It's not exactly filthy, although it's like, come on, it's filthy.
Which you would like walking down the street, coming back from the grocery store there, and you're like, hey man, there's a Windows 11 disk on the ground there. Hell yeah.
You never know what you're going to find on the sidewalk around here.
I guess it's a thumb drive now. I don't really think it comes on disks anymore.
Yeah, I use, what's your standard procedure? I use the media creation tool typically and just make a USB stick.
Yeah, I use the media creation tool, grab the latest version almost always, unless there's a specific reason not to. And install off of that. Yeah,
the arc of Windows install speed over the years has already been pretty interesting in the sense that like 20 years ago, it took an hour to copy files, process files, reboot a couple times, et cetera, et cetera. Like even on my last machine 7 years ago, it was down to like 15 minutes or something.
Oh, it's no. If you had a USB 3 drive when you did the last one onto an SSD, it was like 8 minutes.
It's like almost instantaneous now. It's insane. Yeah. It's like I don't even have time to get up and go get a drink before it's like basically at the login screen ready to go.
Well, the problem now, as my computer is more important to me, both personally and professionally, is that the install time is really low, but the making shit work right time is very, very high now.
Oh, yeah. And that's why I haven't even started on that process yet until I like my first install I'm on right now. Just to be clear, what I mean by filthy is like for example, modern motherboards, this kind of blows my mind, have a UEFI setting now. UEFI being basically a modern BIOS, which apparently operating systems can hook into more directly these days.
Yeah.
This Gigabyte board I've got, apparently ASUS does the same thing now. There is actually a toggle in the BIOS for whether you want Windows to install the motherboard makers like all-in-one software that's supposed to do all the drivers for you.
Oh, is that where that came from?
Yes. I don't know if I mentioned that the last time we talked about this. That's right. I totally did last week. Yeah, like when I got this Windows install done, like I said, as soon as I logged in, it popped up this Gigabyte control center, blah, blah, blah. Like, hey, do you want to do Brad, X, Y, and Z configuration?
I think you owe somebody an apology.
Do I? Who is that somebody?
Last week you blamed that on Windows Update.
Oh, did I? I'm sorry, Windows Update. I was wrong. I'm sorry I ever doubted you. Well, I think Windows Update is still the mechanism through which it gets whatever the designated software is. It's just that the crazy thing is that it's literally a BIOS option that you need to disable. So you mostly do ASUS boards, right? I think that's...
Well, I did Gigabyte boards until this most recent one.
Really? Okay, so I want to say it's Armory Crate is the ASUS version of this.
Yep, Armory Crate is a thing that is installed on my computer pretty much constantly, and I can't get rid of it.
So yes, you need to go into your BIOS and disable, I don't know what it'll be called there, but there is an option you need to disable in there to stop Windows from forcing that on you.
Fascinating.
So there's that on here. I've had a couple of driver installs go sideways that I can't get to work right. Like the LAN driver, no matter what I do, partially because Gigabyte's driver installer is terrible, but it just refuses to update this driver. Stuff like that. I'm just going to disable that BIOS thing. I'm also going to do the install offline this time, so it doesn't try to pull in anything weird.
So it's funny. When I built my new machine last year, I started out with the same thought, and then my install and setup process went so well that I was like, this is fine. We're going to ride through.
Yeah.
I think that this is, I just have so little time these days to do this kind of fiddling with stuff that once it's working, I have to live with it, I think, most of the time, which doesn't feel great.
Well, so that's the thing. I've done zero fiddling. Like I haven't actually set anything up on this machine, partially because I just don't have time during the week. Like I've had my old PC hooked up at the same time because I just need to do work and everything's already on there.
Yeah.
So this is still an unactivated Windows install. I haven't put anything on here except Steam and a couple of benchmark utilities. So it's 15 minutes to wipe it and do a fresh Windows install and then actually start setting things up because there's nothing of value on here.
The problem on my end is once I have Unreal and Perforce installed and have pulled down the project, then I'm pretty committed at that point.
Yeah. I've also been doing some GPU benchmarking is maybe not the right word. Stress testing.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about GPU cooling and noise and stuff like that. And I've been, I've played Cyberpunk on here and some other ray traced stuff. I grabbed Doom Eternal. I tried to find some things, although actually Doom's maybe not the best example because it's so goddamn efficient. But
Doom runs great on my Steam Deck. It doesn't impress me on my PC anymore.
Doom Eternal with everything turned up and the ray tracing on was still getting something like 350, 400 frames a second.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Complete nonsense. It's perhaps not a good benchmark or stress test.
I mean, I think it's a very good. It's a good benchmark. It's not a great stress test.
Yes, that's what I mean is it's hard to max out your hardware with it because it is so efficient. But I installed FurMark, which I think FurMark is probably still the best GPU stress test out there. It's older.
FurMark during the winter, sometimes if my office is cold and the rest of the house is warm, sometimes I turn on FurMark and shut the door for a few minutes and it warms up the whole office.
So I tried that yesterday, except it was already a warm afternoon.
Yeah, that's a bad idea.
Bad idea. Yeah.
When we moved the Maximum PC office, they had to put special HVAC in the area where the Max PC lab was because the benchmarks consistently would overwhelm the air conditioning in the old office, and like the rest of the area around it would be freezing cold. So we had our own thermostat and a separate HVAC outlet that was controlled for the lab.
That's incredible. I mean, I just, I've been working with like fairly modest mid-range hardware for a while.
Yeah.
This is the first time in probably pushing 20 years that I've had like high end enough hardware to like pump serious heat into the room. But running FurMark for half an hour yesterday, it was like unbearably hot in this room, and I put my hand behind the computer while that thing was running, and it was quite literally a space heater.
Oh,
like, just literally felt like hot air blowing out of a space heater.
Yeah, it's like 120 degrees coming out the back of that thing, probably.
So, like you said, we'll probably get back to fan control soon because I just started using it, and there's a lot there to touch on. But
I think fan control might be Turing complete, Brad.
That's a bold claim, but we'll investigate. The reason I bring it up though is like, so I ran FurMark, like I said, which like maxed the GPU. I think it hit like 72C at max. Under actual load, right? And then I also used fan control to synthetically just boost those fans up to max.
Yeah.
But what I'm wondering is any game ever actually going to push that GPU so hard that it's putting out that kind of heat and noise? Or am I only going to hit that synthetically with these methods? Because like I've played Cyberpunk Path Tracing, and like I said, I can't think of anything more demanding than that. And the fans were like not really super audible playing that thing ever.
So the stuff I've had that spins the fans up on the GPU, and just to be clear, I have the GPU fans capped at, I think 80 or 90% in fan control. Because I would rather it throttle down than make that much noise, is doing what's the machine learning image generator?
Which one? Dolly, Stable Diffusion?
The one, Stable Diffusion. Running Stable Diffusion spins it up and down, but it's like 2 minutes. It's like 2 minutes per.
Oh, so that's fine.
Yeah. Baking lights in Unreal with the GPU light map mask thing spins it up pretty hard. I have never had it run full blast in a game. Like it's only doing stuff that hits the machine learning and the GPU, the video parts of the GPU at the same time.
Okay.
It like nothing, video transcodes, none of that stuff gets anywhere close. Even the AV, like when I was doing some AV1 transcodes just to see what that was about, even that didn't get anywhere. Like it didn't spin it up much past idle even.
Sure.
And often, I was going to say, often the GPU fan, like right now looking down at my fans, the GPU fans are just off because the GPU is cool.
I was shocked to find that, yes, when you're just idling at the desktop or doing basic 2D stuff, literally the GPU fans don't even spin.
If it's under 30%, I think the GPU fans just turn off.
Yeah, that's wild to me. But okay, maybe I won't worry. I had been thinking about different noise control options for that, but it sounds like it's probably just not going to run into load use cases or workloads.
I mean, no, the thing that will happen is as you get dust and stuff building up on the fins inside the cooler and it becomes less efficient, you'll have to blast it out because it will start running harder.
I'm on about a 3-month cycle for blowing the computer out anyway, so that's not a big deal. I will say,
I'm sorry, I'm a child.
Straight up Task Manager has gotten surprisingly granular. I had not clicked on the GPU tab in Task Manager in a long time. Maybe this is not a new thing, but I did not realize they were breaking out like kind of every function of that card separately that you can track in terms of load.
Oh, on the performance tab?
So it's, you've got 3D, video encode, video decode, VR,
memory usage,
video processing. So I'm basically talking about like on the CPU view, when you can see all the cores activity discreetly. This is that, but for GPU, and it's crazy. Like you can literally break out VR load on the graphics card from regular 3D.
Oh, really?
Legacy overlay, video processing. I don't even know what copy one and security are, but you get really granular views into what the GPU is doing now. It's kind of impressive.
So it's funny. I think they changed that on the Windows 11 one because all I see is 3D. I do see copy.
You might have to right click and hit change graph to multiple engines.
Yeah, I have multiple engines.
Oh, interesting.
I posted. I see video encode, video decode. I see one that just says copy up here that I can't.
Yeah, so you should be able to
copy one,
click those and change those. Yeah, that's the same view I've got.
Huh.
Anyway, whatever. I'm just in sort of like, number one, everything is so fast. Number two, now I want to tweak. Except, in my old age now, it's tweak down rather than tweak up. Like forget overclocking. I just want to make things more efficient and quieter. So like, for example, like I'm probably also never going to hit like major GPU fan speed issues because I'm probably going to constrain the power a little bit on this card.
I was going to say, at least
Afterburner.
Yeah, at least for right now, it makes sense too, because there's nothing that comes close to hitting the full might of the 4090.
Well, also, I mean, if you look around, both on GPUs and like these Ryzens, you can bring power consumption down a little bit because they are tuned so aggressively to just drink electricity, chug it down to boost as much as possible. You're losing basically almost no performance to drop 10-15% on power consumption because they run cooler, so they can run at higher clocks for longer. So
I was going to say, we talked about this a little bit off camera when we were at PC World building your computer was it just last week? Yes, it was.
Yes, it's been
10 days.
9 days.
Yeah, 9 days.
It's only been 9 days. That feels like a month ago.
It'll be 10 by the time they hear this. Anyway, my point was, we talked about cooling, and he had expressed interest in the numbers I was getting off of the liquid cooler and the 13900K. And he one of the things Adam suggested was going in and seeing if there was an ASUS setting in my motherboard that was just like, run it at full speed all the time, man. Turns out there is.
The fans?
I turned that on. No, the CPU. So my CPU was running at 5500 megahertz all the time.
Oh, what?
Yeah. It was making it hotter than it needed to be.
How long has this been going on since you built the machine?
3 months.
Ooh. Wait, no, man, it's been like 6 almost.
I built it in December.
Oh, was it December? Okay.
Yeah, it was December. So yeah, it's that's helped a little bit. In fairness, I'm reasonably sure that I turned that off when I bought it, and I had to upgrade the BIOS in January and reset the settings when I did that. And I guess my bet is that I didn't flip it back off when I did that. So anyway, I've put it on my list of settings to look for in the BIOS. The next step is to undervolt a little bit. I'm going to bring it down an eighth of a volt or something like that and see what happens.
Yeah. So on the AMD side these days, it seems like it's recommended not to undervolt, but rather to fiddle with just the power consumption. Don't change the voltage, just change what the max power draw can be.
Yeah.
In fact, I believe that's also the recommendation now for graphics cards, at least for NVIDIA. I don't know if AMD cards also support this, but most people, like I undervolt my 3080 or did when that machine was active. But now people are mostly saying for graphics cards, don't undervolt. Just there's just a kind of max. I don't know how they describe it, max power consumption or whatever. There's just a kind of a slider now where you can just bring that down by percentage. So they say don't change voltage. Just say, hey, this can only consume 90% of the maximum power or something like that. Stuff, I don't know. It just seems like, is race to the top the inverse of race to the bottom? Does that work? Like, it seems like there's kind of a race to the top among both graphics and CPU makers lately to just like, we've got to get those benchmarks up. Like, we've got to make this thing look like it's 200 megahertz faster than the competition. So we're just going to push everything as hard as humanly possible.
I mean, they've kind of always done, like, look, there used to be in the early days of video cards, NVIDIA and ATI at the time, and the other people that were selling chips to third-party vendors had to say, look, you can't change the number of the model. Like, if there's a number on your card, it has to match the number of the GPU that's inside the card, because otherwise you're going to confuse the hell. Like, because people would take like a Radeon 8500 and put 8750 on it if they overclocked it a little bit. I mean, that's a bad example because they'd already stopped it by then. But like in 2000, 2001, 2002, that was a real problem. There was all sorts of weirdness. So yes, people are always trying to make the numbers bigger, Brad.
Right. Yeah, the
bigger
point
number, better.
Yeah, maybe not always. Yeah, the point is
the Xbox 360 was better than the PS3.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, most of what I'm looking at is like low single digit changes in performance for like 20% less power, like that's completely acceptable to me.
Yeah.
So to keep heat and noise down significantly and only lose like less than 5%, maybe like 1 to 3 in some cases, in terms of performance, like totally a fair trade.
I will happily trade a little bit of performance for a little bit less noise and a little bit less heat.
Yeah. Well, a lot less, I think, is the lesson. So anyway, that is a huge rabbit hole on the AMD side. There is like, I don't know if you experience this every time you build a new machine, you have to like kind of start from zero and see what's going on with the platform these days in terms of learning, like different things you can tweak to make things.
Well, when they change the architectures like that, it's always an always an issue.
Right. So like I'm having to figure out what precision boost overdrive is and like what I believe it's PBT, TDC, and EDC values are, which are different types of power consumption.
Well,
stuff changes a lot in between computer builds is what I'm saying.
How are you finding the documentation on that stuff?
It's not great.
Are you able to go to forums to find out what it means?
I am 100% reading like Reddit explainers and stuff. Apparently, AMD has a pretty decent like YouTube presence, for example. They actually do put out a good amount of information on this stuff.
Yeah, but I don't want to watch You shouldn't have to watch a 10-minute video to find out what an acronym means ever.
Yes, I am with you on that stuff. Finding good centralized documentation on what all this stuff means and how to tweak it is a little bit tricky.
Yeah, I was going to say that's kind of my general complaint. We talked about the good stuff of high-end motherboards last week. Like if I had a complaint about high-end motherboards, it's they give you 50 million settings and the onboard help is like you hover over it and it's like, hey, what's this EBT setting? And it says this changes the EBT on the FMO up and down 1/10% per dot.
Right.
So yeah, it's not great.
I also love that. Like, I mean, that's kind of what you're describing, the contextual help inside the actual interface. Like it'll be like FMO option, enable, disable, and the description text will say enable/disable FMO option. It's like, yep, I got that from the actual option.
Yep. Thanks for the FMOs.
Yeah, I think I've got this Alder Lake box that is my NAS now, and I think on the Intel side, keeping power down is just a matter of changing those PL1, PL2 values and tau. If you're familiar with that stuff, I'm getting a blank stare.
No, I'm not familiar with that stuff.
Okay. Well, we can talk about it later. I don't know if you even care.
I care
about constraining your chip or not, or if you're happy with it where it is, probably fine.
Oh yeah. It's, maybe there's an episode there. Maybe we should get Adam on to talk about that stuff because he's really into it and it might be a fun time.
Yes, Adam is super plugged into what's going on with hardware.
Yeah, he pays a lot of attention to it. Like it's a place that I would like to spend more time learning, and I don't have the time to devote to it right now. So
it's quite a bit to take in.
Yeah.
Anyway, some days to weeks ahead of me of learning the ins and outs of this platform and making it as efficient as humanly possible.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's always nice to get a new computer. It's always nice to figure out the new thing, and yeah, I mean, it's funny. I'm settling into mine now, and I'm like. It's starting to feel like the old computer now.
I was going to say you're probably at the point now where it's not the new computer. Now it's just the computer.
Yeah. The next thing for me to do is to take the old computer and it's like I basically did the fast and dirty move over of all the old streaming PC stuff off of the old computer onto it. And I need to go through and clean that up and probably do a clean Windows install and strip down from 55 drives to whatever ridiculous drive configuration I had in there to like, one or maybe 2 drives and make it a long-term workable computer rather than a short-term, hey, this works good enough computer.
That's a good place to be. I think the last thing I'll comment on is just, again, the size of this case.
It's real big.
The size of this case. So I've been swapping the old and new one in and out as I move hardware over to the new one, as I need to hook the old one back up to do work stuff, et cetera, et cetera. Psychologically,
how's your back?
It's weird. It's actually not heavier than my R6, which is dramatically smaller. And I wonder if they changed metal type or if they're using less metal in places to make it. Do
you have spinning platters in the R6?
I only had one.
Okay, never mind then.
Yeah, that shouldn't matter. No, also the 7 XL has a little bit of flex to it, where the 6 feels like it's built like a tank. Like it is just incredibly rigid and thick and solid, and the 7 feels a little more like svelte, I guess I would say, in terms of like structural integrity. I don't know what is behind that, but the point being, like, the 7 doesn't feel that much heavier than the 6, despite being dramatically bigger. But the thing I was going to say, though, it is a little interesting. I mean, it's fine. It's just a different kind of design, I guess, but the thing I was going to say, though, as I move those 2 computers in and out of that space beside the desk where the computer lives, this R6, which is not a small case, has started looking comically tiny.
It's like a baby computer for babies.
Every time I see it back in its place after the 7 has been there for a couple of days, it's just like that might as well be a mini ITX. Like, how did I ever use a case that small?
What are you going to do with the R6 now?
Probably put the NAS in it.
Okay.
So I've got the NAS currently in a Define Mini, which is a micro ATX.
Oh yeah, and then more space.
Working in a micro ATX, we've talked about this. Like working in there, especially with 6 drives in that thing, is just kind of a nightmare.
Yeah, it'll be cooler too with more air in there.
Yes, there'll be more air. It'll make room for a couple more hard drives if I decide I want to put more in. It's just a bigger, more expansive, nicer case.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That means I have 3 cases in here now, so I think that Define Mini probably needs to go.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I took one of my Corsairs off and gave it to a friend the other day.
Corsair case?
It was. Yeah, it was an old Corsair.
Oh, okay.
It was an old Corsair. Basically, I had bought 3 very similar Corsair quiet. Like the NAS one was not a quiet case, but the 2 in the office were both quiet cases, and I moved them out so that we could. I needed to get rid of some of them because I have too many cases here right now.
Yeah, that's probably the thing to do. I might actually just donate the Define Mini.
It's hard to find somebody to donate stuff like that too.
Oh, well, there's a Salvation Army down the street here.
Don't give stuff to the Salvation Army.
Yeah, but I get it, but I also don't have a lot of options around here. Goodwill closed. Also, Goodwill's not great either.
Goodwill's also not great, but Salvation Army is
actively bad. I get it, but the only other option I really have is to. Well, okay, actually,
do you have an elementary school in your neighborhood?
I just call
them and see if they want a computer.
Yeah, that's okay. Fair. Well, it's just a case.
Oh, yeah, they're not. That's the problem. Is nobody wants cases.
That's exactly it. Is I don't know who else I would give it to because it's just a case.
We can always electronics recycle too.
Yeah, that's true. Well, there's no electronics in there, so
they'll take the case.
Really? It's just metal and plastic.
Yep. Well, they break the metal apart and melt down the metal and break the plastic apart and send the plastic, throw the plastic in the ocean or something. I don't know what happens to that.
It does occur to me there is the other option.
Just put it on the street with a sign that says free. The
classic free sign.
Yeah, I mean, look, that fractal design, that is a nice case. Somebody will take that on the free sign.
It's pretty good. I mean, it's too small. Like micro ATX is not super well supported these days.
But you put an ITX board in it, it'll be fine.
Oh, right. Yeah, of course you could put a smaller board in there. There's still some micro ATX boards on the market. Well,
I was gonna say the other thing is we have good luck getting rid of stuff like that on the Nextdoor or Facebook free giveaway pages.
Sure. So, I had considered something like that, but the hassle of posting an ad and having to deal with people responding, and that's never a pleasant process.
So where we are, we just say, hey, I'm putting this out on the front porch at 3:00 today.
Okay.
Come get it if you want it. And then people can come get it, and anything that I do it on trash day. And then if it doesn't make it, then it either goes in the trash or I take it to the electronics recycling or whatever later.
That sounds like a low impact option.
Yeah, it works pretty well. Anyway, Brad, we've reached the point in the show, I think, where we've poed our last pourri.
Ooh. For now.
For now, yeah, of course. I really do think a full fan control episode is in our future. They've added some cool stuff to it lately, man.
It seems extremely robust. I'm pretty impressed, even just from the little bit I've poked at it. But that'll probably also be a good place once we get to it for me to talk about like deeper CPU, heat, voltage, wattage, power consumption type stuff as well. Just sort of general efficiency making in this machine.
Maybe that's the episode is how do you make your PCs quiet and efficient, and we get Adam in for that.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And that's a great. We kind of talked about this when I was trying to decide if I was going to go Intel or AMD. Like a non-zero factor in my decision was if you have an Intel system, if you have high-end Intel and I have high-end AMD, that's a good way to contrast those platforms over the coming months.
Yeah, it's funny as I've done more. When we set this up, when we were talking about this originally, I was doing a lot of burst compute and not a lot of sustained compute. And now all of a sudden with the Unreal stuff, I'm doing a lot of sustained compute. Oh, well, it'll be fine. It turns out it's fine.
Those tiny cores are not doing it anymore, huh?
Yeah, it's fine. My tiny core. I'm not sensitive about my tiny cores.
The Cinebench accelerators, as Buildzoid refers to them.
Yeah, exactly.
You have a lot of them though.
I do have there are like what I will say is Firefox uses those tiny cores and it uses a lot of them. I may have like each tab gets its own core.
That's crazy. That's actually kind of awesome. Whatever. I get it.
Yeah. But we should wrap up the show.
Yeah.
So this is the part of the show where we thank our patrons. As always, Brad and Will Made a Tech Pod is 100% listener supported.
Yes.
I remember how to do this week because it hasn't been 2 weeks since we did it last.
We're kind of back in the groove. Thank you, patrons, for your support. Thank you for listening to this episode. Hopefully it wasn't too rambly. Let us know.
Yeah, and if you would like to support the show, you can find out how to by going to patreon.com/techpod. Again, that is patreon.com/techpod, where for $5 a month, you can join the 3,000-ish people who support the show. You can get in on the TechPod Discord. You can get our monthly patron exclusive episode where we talk about, all sorts of stuff. It's all over. Like that one sometimes really focused and sometimes really all over the place. And join the Discord. The Discord's the real secret magic. I actually, this morning I woke up. I had a headache, so I went to bed real early last night. I woke up at like 5 o'clock in the morning today, and I popped in the Discord early because there's always people there talking. And I was like, "Hey, what do you all think about this new episode idea?" And we talked through the thing that you and I talked about before, and people were like had really good ideas. So it's a lovely community full of people. There's a bazillion channels that cover everything from topics from, hey, here's a place to share pictures of your desk setup, your battle station and or your pets, all the way down to we just added a gardening channel to the real life section for folks because it's in the northern hemisphere, at least it's garden planting season right now.
It is.
And a lot of lovely stuff happening in there every day. So yeah, we even have a channel for Australians so they can talk about Australia stuff.
That's right. By extreme popular request.
Yeah.
It turned out.
I thought it was the Canadians that wanted to segregate the Australians in the Australia channel, but it turns out the Australians wanted a place to talk about Australia shit where nobody else would harass them about calling flip-flops thongs.
Look, I am not going to get into beef within the Commonwealth. That's for them to sort out.
Yeah. Exactly. New Zealand, meanwhile, sitting over looking smug on the side.
Simple as.
Yeah. So this week, of course, we're going to thank our executive producers, dear patrons, as we do every week. So thank you to Nick Johnston, Paddle Creek Games, makers of Fractured Veil, Andrew Slosky, Brad's Midsize Hoodoo Voodoo Switcheroo. Don't know about that one. Octothorpe Bunny Crimes, Just Wedge, Joel Krauska, Twinkle Twinkie, David Allen, and James Kamek. Thank you also so much.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
And that'll do it for us this week, Brad. So we will be back next week with another episode of the Tech Pod. Do you know what next week is?
I do. It starts with an E. And it ends in males.
We're eloping.
Oh, okay.
We're eating. It's the Moji episode.
That's right. Finally, it's come.
It's we're gonna eat elote.
Oh, that sounds good. You couldn't podcast while doing that, but
I made an elote salad the other day.
Wow.
For a barbecue that was pretty good.
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, you just you cut the corn off the kernels and then char it in the pan, and it wasn't quite as good, but it was a lot less messy.
Okay, well, it's not elote, but it's emails.
It's email. Well, that's an underwhelming segue now.
We should try to season the emails a little better.
Yeah. So
or questions rather. Sorry, it's questions.
Well, we're doing questions and emails. We forgot to do emails last month, so we have a backlog of pretty good emails.
Questions can come in email form, or they can come via the appropriate Discord channel.
That's true. You can find, if you're in the Discord, you can post in the Question Seeking Answers channel. If you are not in the Discord, you can send an email to techpod@content.town, and we will see that email and respond to it, possibly on the show next week. So thanks for listening, everybody. We will see you all next week.